Okay, this is basically a follow-up on the video that I just made. It was done as a video reply to one of the channels that I've been subscribed to, and so this is a follow-up. You may want to watch that one first, but you don't necessarily have to. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to address a subject that's been on my mind lately, because it's bothered me that the ego is being confused with the true self, and this is something that I take a very strong, very powerful. I have to speak out against this. I know deep down inside of me that this is not true, and I'm not exactly sure why this idea is being peddled by the New Age movement. It may be out of compassion, to try to get people to feel for each other a little bit more, but in that case they're twisting the truth. Or if it's like a fascist intention of trying to eliminate the sense of self, to take away the individual's power, the psychological power, to kind of make them adopt and to accept a more slave mentality, like the Borg in Star Trek, for example, not thinking as individuals, just operating mindlessly as a cult, like a group. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to make money to sell books and they're not even thinking about it, and there really is no intention. It's just something they came up with. But as I said in my last video, I believe, I do think that there is some truth in that we definitely were all connected. We may be from the same place, from the same, I call it the light, because I don't know what it is, but I feel it. I've always felt it. I just call it the light. And I mean, we may all be from there. We may all be connected through that, and we may all return there one day and be one again. We may all be, in a sense, extensions of the same consciousness. That's possible. But certainly, in this reality, and even outside of this reality, as I explained in my last video, we are individuals. And as the individual, you can think, you can discover, you can be empowered in a way that you could never be by just going along with everyone else and following the trends and everything else. I have known many, many people who just go with the group. They follow, that's the herd mentality. They, you can speak with them one-on-one, and some of them can actually think for themselves. Some of them are incapable, as they're so locked into thinking along with the group. As an individual, you can be powerful. I mean, you can expand your mind to such an amazing extent. You can accomplish things that you might never thought you might have accomplished. By looking into yourself, you realize how powerful you are, how amazing you are, and that basically society tries to dumb you down, tries to control you, tries to convince you that you don't matter, that you need to surrender yourself to society, and to ignore what you know to be true, to ignore that you know that there's something wrong with this world, that there's something wrong with the system, that you need to speak out. You're supposed to suppress that. That's how the few control the many, and it's not exactly new. And so I have a real problem with that. Now, I need to explain to you, obviously, the difference between ego and true self. Some of you already know, and you've always known, and deep down we must all know. But somehow, some people get so confused with all the problems in this world that they're easily manipulated in this way to question whether or not the self really matters. Now, the ego is not the true self, okay? The ego is who and what you think you are, but you're not really. And there's a lot of talk lately by a lot of people involved with the truth movement who like to think that they're being spiritual, and they like to say, yes, I'm moving beyond my ego self and finding my inner truth, my inner voice, and letting go of the ego. I have to laugh because I heard Alex Jones say that in an interview with Michael Tsarian. And I had mixed feelings about Tsarian, by the way, as well. But Alex Jones, I don't want to attack him in the sense that he does bring forward important information. It's just that The idea that Alex Jones has let go of his ego is laughable. You couldn't have a bigger ego than Alex Jones has. And again, some people think that people don't understand what the ego is. When I'm saying ego, I'm not saying a jerk. You're being a jerk. There's another word I could use, but it may not be appropriate for YouTube, so I'll just say jerk. Being a jerk and being an ego-centered person are not the same thing. They're talked about, they're used in language as if they are, but they're not. It's very hard for me to explain in such a short period of time what the ego is. I know what it is, but I don't have the time frame to explain it like I'd like to. But the true self is what you find if you, for example, sit down in the woods, or if you meditate anywhere. But if you sit down in the woods, lay your back against a tree and you relax and you let go of all your conscious thoughts and you just let go, and then inside of you all these fears come up, and then you learn to let go and they dissolve and you sink down into yourself, and then more fears come up and then you just let go and they dissolve away and you fall deeper into yourself. And when you finally come to and you open your eyes, you feel reborn. You feel like you are the inner child, that you have a state of mind, that your feelings are heightened in a way that you hadn't experienced since you were a very young child. And I guarantee you, as corny as this might sound, I don't care, man, woman, young or old, I guarantee you would cry. I guarantee you'd break down. You would be so moved by this. For those of you who've had some kind of spiritual awakening, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't, you wouldn't. But you do cry, because you didn't realize how much you had lost your true self. And when you find it again, when the inner child wakes up and looks and sees the world again, it's astonishing, and you feel reborn, and it's incredible. And that's the true self, and you know it when you find it. And this big weight that you had over you, that you carried around, that participated in BS and said and did all the right things, that felt a pride and accomplishment and confidence and, put your shoulders up and felt like a big man or woman, whatever. And I mean, that was all an act. It was all a show, and that's what's called the ego. And to explain it further, I'd have to make more videos, but for now I'm just going to leave it at this. I can attempt to explain it further in the future, but I think that was probably the best way I have of putting it. And they're not the same thing. The true self is who you really are. And when you find it, you know it. And the ego is who you think you really are, and you don't know it until you find the true self, and then you can see through it. Alex Jones is ego. I'm not saying, well, I don't really care much for him as a person, but I'm not saying right here, I'm not saying he's a jerk, but I'm saying he's very ego-centered. He thinks that he's, I don't even buy that he actually thinks he's a spiritual person. But again, I'm not trying to attack him. I'm just saying that is an example of someone who's very ego-centered. They don't know any different. When you're woken up spiritually, it's hard to explain. I don't have the time. But you're not arrogant in that way. You're not crude by nature. You're woken out of that. Again, I don't have the time. I apologize. But I did the best I could to try to explain it. And it bothers me that that they are being confused. That if you want to be a good person, you should let go of the ego. And since the ego is the true self, you need to let go of yourself. No, it's not true. You need to be the true self. You need to be centered in yourself. You need to be empowered in yourself. Because that's how you're meant to be, or you wouldn't be here as the true self. You can be born as the true self if you weren't meant to be that. So don't listen to the BS. Someone's trying to mess with your brain for one reason or another. Don't try to let go of the ego. Search for the true self. And when you find it, the ego will automatically dissolve. Peace.